Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and in this video I'm going to be talking about improving retail World of Warcraft through some lessons possibly learned from TBC Classic that I've been thinking a lot about because I've been playing a lot of TBC Classic as I wait for 9.1 to get here. So, the topic of this one will be about professions. Now, we don't have to go all the way back to TBC to get a similar system as to what I'm about to propose. We actually had this similar system in BFA that a lot of people probably just kind of took for granted, although they did partake in it, and many people seem to kind of enjoy it or like it or think it was passable at least. And with the crafting professions in BFA. So let's first talk about how professions kind of work in TBC. So in TBC, we have ranging power levels of crafting professions, but really for a lot of classes or specs, some of your best in slot stuff is actually from crafting professions, and it actually lasts for many patches of TBC Classic or regular TBC back in the day, many phases or raid progressions. The one I'm most familiar with is the Spellfire set, and I'm also very familiar with the blacksmithing with like Deep Thunder, which is obviously really good for PvP. And these are things that you kind of built up. Yeah, if you were really high end, you would have these items very early. But these are things that you kind of built up as you went back in the day. And then you would get them and you'd be very powerful with them because they were very powerful items. In today's world, generally, yes, you're going to craft these things at the beginning, and that's fine and works out great in retail because you're going to have to re-up them or increase their item level or whatever with each patch, at each 0.1 patch or whatever, 0.2, 0.3. You're going to have to increase their item level to match the rest of your gear. So it actually kind of works if people kind of get them early because you're still going to be working to make them stronger as the expansion goes on, similar to how we did in BFA. So the reason why I think this is such a good thing to have in the game, and I think it should just be applied to many other things in the game, is you're kind of this item is yours. When it's crafted, it's literally yours. You crafted it, you made it, you farmed the materials for it, or you bought them with your gold from the auction house, whatever the case may be. But you worked for this item, you built it up, and it can remain with you through the expansion if you want to. Maybe it ends up being not as good later on and you decide not to continue crafting it, but you just craft this item. It stays with you, it stays super powerful, and this is your item. Maybe by the end of the expansion it becomes a legendary on the very last patch, like you finally craft it into a legendary even. This would be an amazing system to have in the game. In TBC, it actually wasn't as good as what I'm proposing because for some people it was good for 1 tier or 2 tiers, whatever, and then by the time Sunwell came around, the crafting stuff was mostly dead by the time that comes out. But so it wasn't the full expansion that stayed with you, but it still was a very giant portion of it. Now, they completely went away from this in Shadowlands, and they decided to tie crafting to the legendary thing. So in that way, yes, you have this option of crafting the base item of your legendary, but you're still not fully crafting legendary. I don't think this was a very good system in hindsight. I didn't really think it was the greatest system before, but I think the problem is, and it's professions just do not get enough love or maybe hate from content creators or something like that, or to form a community opinion around them. Because if you were looking at the professions from Shadowlands versus the professions, especially talking about player power level, right? Professions in BFA, there would be no disagreement that the BFA profession system was much, much better. It was infinitely better. Yet there's about the same amount of talk about the professions in both expansions, and most of it's just meh, right? So what we had in BFA was a very good system. I think it could be a little bit better, and I'll propose that. But you had a very good system that people just didn't care about, even though most people used it. I mean, I as a Mythic Raider, I actually wore my crafted blacksmithing belt all the way through N'Zoth progression because it had so much mastery on it. I play a Rep Paladin, and mastery stacking was the play to go with all the corruption and stuff. So I had a very high mastery crafted belt, and it comes with the socket anyways. Mastery socket into it, put on some masterful corruption, and there was no real belt that was going to give me more mastery, so I just kind of stuck with that. So I actually was wearing a crafted belt while killing N'Zoth for the first time, which is actually pretty cool. and killing N'Zoth all the other times while farming the mounts for the rest of the guild, which is actually really cool. And it wore the crafted belt during Nazjatar for a long period of time until you get like a benthic item or something that's better. But you have these options of things you can do. And do it. So I think the way to make it better, of course, is to where you just continue that item up. So you add maybe a quest line. So maybe there's a blacksmithing quest line, maybe there's a jewel crafting quest line, etc. With each patch, you go through the quest line. It explains to you the materials that you need, why you need those materials. You slowly gather them up, and then you craft the improvement to your item. And now you have this better item that is like a mythic level item. I wouldn't do the 6 item levels lower like in BFA. I would literally make it a mythic level item. And like I said, maybe on the final patch, the 9.3, the 10.3, the item actually becomes legendary itself. Even if there's another legendary system in the game, you just get another one because you crafted this item. You stuck with this item the entire expansion. You put all these materials into it, thousands and thousands of golden materials into this item, and now it's a super good item that you created, that you forged or you smelted or whatever. And I think that would be a really cool thing to do. And it's not the same as BC by any means. It's actually closer to the BFA system in many ways. But just the idea that it's okay to have a crafted item be your best in slot, or your crafted item to be extremely powerful. There's nothing wrong with that. It's actually really good for the game, and it allows even the most casual players, if they're willing to put in the work to get the materials, and maybe it would be very hard for them. Maybe they won't have the item level gear to make it very easy. Maybe they'll have to go farm gold to, buy it off the auction house, what they can't farm. And it creates a wave that all the players can partake in something. So everyone partook in the artifact weapon. Everyone was partaking in the necklace. The necklace wasn't really cool until it got essences, of course. But once it did get essences, people seemed to kind of like it. So everyone partook in that. When we got our cloaks from the visions, everyone kind of partook in powering up their cloak. I think everyone partaking from powering up their crafted thing is actually really good. And yes, in Shadowlands, we are doing that too. We craft an item, but you don't have to craft the item, of course. You can just buy it from the auction house. And you power up the legendary that comes from that item. But that's a very cheap way of doing it. I think we want to separate those systems. I think if you're going to have a legendary system, that's fine. But I think keep the crafted profession system separate from it, and have that be a completely thing that you do on your own, that casual from high-end players partake in, that build up over the course of an expansion. I think this would be an excellent idea. It's a slam dunk. I do worry though, because like in BFA, like I said in BFA, there weren't a bunch of people saying this is all so awesome. Now when Shadowlands gets a little bit boring, there aren't people saying, hey, why don't we have these cool profession things we can do? Even in BFA, we had little profession quests as well that we could do, similar to Legion. Legion had little profession quests. Shadowlands kind of punted on the professions in many ways. And, I think the expansion's worse off for that. I think in many ways Shadowlands has been a better expansion at the beginning than Legion and BFA. But punting on the professions was not the way to do it. I think you just keep this system and go forward with it. Build on the BFA system that I was kind of talking about in the way that I'm kind of mentioning. Build on that system and just keep that for every expansion. Have it be a steadfast thing that people like to do. So people like to raid. Now people like to do Mythic Plus. People like to do Arena, especially twos. Twos is the most popular arena. Build on these things and make them better, make them more popular. I think people will, again, I wish it would have got more publicity or more love during BFA, but people like to just craft their items and have their crafted items. Everybody in my guild, at least everyone got their crafted items as soon as they could, put them on, felt powerful for a bit. A lot of them did replace it with mythic items, but again, you wouldn't have to do that if the crafted item could scale up to mythic level, right? And then the missive idea is good. You could choose the stats that go on the item. I think that's a good thing. So that way everybody could make it their best in slot by putting the proper stats on it. So that's my 2 cents on that. I think this would be a great improvement for the game. We don't have to look back far to see a similar system already. So it's not out of the blue. It's not literally going back to TBC. The TBC inspiration is simply just saying it's okay to have a blacksmithing item or a jewel crafting item or whatever be your best in slot. It's okay. That can be a thing, and it can still be really cool. The BFA is more of kind of the way I think that they should do it. But just again saying it's okay that it's your best in slot. It doesn't have to be 220 instead of 226. It can just be 226 and have a socket and be really good. And you could choose the stats that you put on it, right? So I would love to see something like that happen. I think that would make retail a better game. I don't know if it would get the love that it deserves, even if they did do it, which is probably why they don't do it. But I think it'd be a great change nonetheless. That's about it for this video. As always, I do ask you to please subscribe to the channel because that helps me out so much. And other than that, everybody, have a good one.